time. And of course, we are continuing to tease out, anatomize, and slice and dice the issue of university funding and all the intrigues therein so far. Legislators have been castigating this, calling it very discriminative. But also we have other side who are supporting this particular initiative, say it's a good one for Kenyans as well, if you're to steamroll university education to all Kenyans. And this is what we are discussing, just winding up on it. Before we took a short break, we were still with Martin Olonit and Brian Weke and Kiprito Arap Kirwa and Dr. Kalua as well. So yeah. I think now
it's my turn.
The battle has been between the two of you. It's your turn now.
Yes.
Then we wind up and then we'll hear from Kiprito Arap Kirwa.
There is a question that you posed as we were going to the recess, which was, is this a fair system for private universities? That question should not even arise in the first place. Even to get one student from government, or to get 2 or 10, or even the many that are going into private universities, is already an act of equity, trying to expand this whole thing.
But it's not me who's asking. Even the private university association.
I'm answering them plus. I'm answering whoever has asked
and
it.
he's from a private university.
No, fine.
He's the head of department.
Yes. And I want to make the case. What this system does, it calls us into question in terms of how we manage education. For example, there are 2 universities that have said they are not taking government students, and they have been surviving. They are known. I don't want to mention their names.
I already mentioned them.
Yeah?
I already mentioned them.
You already mentioned them. Yeah. They are there. So they are not complaining because they said, we don't want you. We will get our catchment. Whoever applies to us will take, but we don't want you to come and create differentiated funding issues inside our university, because you'll come and give us low-paying students and so on. So they refused, and they're still surviving. But there were also those that received these students and for a long time offered services, and government in its usual lethargic nature would pay when they want and when they have money, and they will not pay everything at a go. So these universities are offering services upfront. Students are being taught where they are being given, and yet the money has not come. So those universities have also felt the pinch.
Yeah.
So from a private sector, if I give you students and I don't give you the money, and I promise to give you money, it means that I'm only delaying when you can get value from that money. Now, the other element that we need to see, which is an important point, is that here is an open competition, where if a university does well, it has robust systems, it has education programs that run on time, there's quality assurance. Those private universities will attract choices from students, because they'll know that if you go to Daystar, if you go to this university, KCA, or whatever it is, you will finish in time. Now, those universities will increasingly begin to attract students, because when students are making choices in the schools, they'll say, I want to go to this university, I want to go to that university. I don't want to talk about how Kisii University got 8,000 students as opposed to 6,000 students in the University of Nairobi. Those are issues of,
that's
they could
what
be tinkering, they could be this or that, and without data I can't go and say exactly that. The only thing that I want to agree with Brian, which I rarely do, is that there is always this fear about manipulation, fear about corruption and so on, and that is true, because we are living in a country where anything goes. That one is, that's why you are fearing. I'm not telling you.
Now you're acting like an intellectual.
Of course I am always, but you see, because I also have to see your point. And the point you are saying is, there is this fear, and therefore let's stick to where we know. And I'm saying that fear should not stop us from making progress. Yes, corruption is not going away. By the way, it's not going away, Brian.
All right.
And so let's learn to work with it and challenge it. I will be the first ones to challenge you, to tell you, or rather to raise it if it happens, that these placements and issues of scholarships were unfair if we see the evidence.
Thank you.
But I will not fear to say.
Right. Let's hear from Kiprito Arap Kirwa. But before we answer that, there is this also interesting article that Education for the World had written before, just talking about what we're discussing, saying education is a human right and a public good that can be fully realized only through the provision of free, equitable, inclusive, quality public education. The growing commercialization and privatization in and of the sector is the greatest threat to the universal right to education. As educators, they say, we put students before profit. In 2015, we published our global response to the commercialization and privatization of education. Through this campaign, we work to expose the challenges, the policies and practices of government, intergovernmental organizations and international financial institutions which undermine public education and the rights and the status of teachers and education support personnel. Across the world, corporate interests are striving to transform all levels of education, from early childhood to higher education, into yet another market with winners and losers. As private sector management models are applied to education institutions, employment conditions in the sectors are being undermined. And it continues on and on and on and on. But it just gives you a glimpse of where the commercialization as well of education is adversely...
Yes, I've listened to both sides of the argument, but two things have not been removed. We've not focused on the mismanagement of these institutions. How? Because public institutions essentially are meant for the public and meant for each and every Kenyan.
But that is entirely a standalone topic of its own.
Yes.
Yes.
So my worry is that we seem to be glossing over the issue instead of saying, why are we where we are? We are where we are because of mismanagement of these public institutions. Number two, we were saying now the institutions will be at the mercy of students, but the same students will be at the mercy of individuals in the village who will determine who is needy, who is not needy. These are things that go on every day and will be pretending that society is now fair. We know each and every day in the village, whether it is fertilizer, subsidy, some of the individuals don't get it because they belong to another side of the equation, not because they are not needy. In Trans Nzoia, where we are supposed to be producing about 4 to 5 million bags of maize, not many farmers got the subsidized fertilizer, including myself, because...
Did you apply?
I did. My son applied, and he has a farm of his own. So he applied for 20 bags, which is equivalent to 20 acres of fertilizer. He was given none, and most of the neighbors were given. So this is something that it is a reality in Kenya. And if there is anything this government of Dr. Green is doing, is to be differential in terms of who benefits and who doesn't benefit. And this is a culture that we know from some of the individuals in the same institution of government have been doing in their own private, at the constituency level or at any other level. So we are not addressing the issue. How do we determine a needy student? Because public education was the equalizer. But now we are saying public education is being taken like private investment by private institutions of universities. Because yes, private universities have created greater space, but you choose to go to private when you can afford. But if you cannot afford, you go to public. And many students, those bright ones, you've been seeing them even in high school, you find a student gets 400 marks. Then he misses a position in a national school because they cannot afford school fees. Many of them. And I've been wondering what happens to the constituency funding, what happens to the bursary in every county. It is because nobody cares about some of these needy students. Because these intelligent students...
There's even a presidential bursary.
Yeah, presidential bursary. And nobody is taking care of them. If a student really has gotten 400 marks...
There are county bursaries.
And even ward bursary, and they are not getting it, you find a student chooses to go back to the village to go to a day school where the government is funding. So these are disparities in our society that if we don't address the root cause of that, we are likely to throw many students under the bus. Yeah.
All right. Can we wind up this conversation? Yes.
I just want to say this. This is not an intellectual discussion. I really understand Dr. Green, the way you've articulated the issues of equity. The society is not balanced. They are needy. You know, in terms of your intellectual discussion, I understand. But I just want to be very clear. We are coming from a situation and a system that is offering fairness. regardless of where you come from. The only thing that you need to do is to get a C+ and above, and you will get funding, which is equivalent to around 70%. You only pay 30%. Now, you want to replace that with a committee. You want to replace that with a system where there is a guy who sits and determines whether you will get funding. And we are saying that is not acceptable. It is not acceptable because we live in this country. And if you think you do not live in this country, check the PSs who are appointed.
They are Kenyans.
They are Kenyans.
Yeah.
It is not about meritocracy. Check the parastatal heads who are appointed and where they come from. We do not want a situation where I come from, and I want to say it without fear of contradiction. The Otieno's, somebody will sit and discuss and determine whether an Otieno or an Olo or an Nzile or a Mutua is less fortunate or less needy or vulnerable. Please, whatever categories you want to create, let us build on the system that we have. Let us have C+ and above, you get 70%.
What we want.
But there are trepidations and fears around it because as a country we will want to, gravitate towards graft, especially when you have these particular issues of who will be determining who
Look at
gets
the allocation
what
in Kisii.
with the allocations.
University.
So, it is a genuine concern he raises.
I agree with him.
Yeah.
The only thing that I want him to understand is that there is a simple definition of what politics is by Harold Leswell. He says, politics is about who gets what, when, and how. Those things are the key ingredients of politics. Up to the point when you begin to say this is unfair, this is not right, you know what to do.
But this is what now we want to uncouple the politics from the system itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So even politics is all about distribution of resources.
Politics drive even sectoral issues.
So, Debal.
Martin speaks today like he's part of this consultancy.
It's good. Reality is reality.
I think
the more,
okay, we need to wind up.
Yeah, the more Brian speaks, the more I hear the voice of Kenyans. Because Kenyans, what we have gone through over the years, the more we get worried. Because the precedence has been set where people feel that tutaonewa, this will go to this community, that community. The good thing of the committee that you're now talking about is that there is hope, because this is what turns to a system, because it will get to automation. If you can borrow money on Hustler Fund and get it without any face, why not getting into this kind of a system where the funding process of a university student is automated? I believe that that is where it's going to be. The next thing is about education on matters of leadership and integrity. There is no better courses that you can get in this country like you can get in the university that is called ILU, International Leadership University, and other universities like my colleague is in. Because Kenyans are struggling with joblessness. The youth need to know, what can I be able to do? Where am I going to get the resources? What is the education that I need that is going to arm me to get to the next level? And that is where we need to take control, because it starts with you. It is you who has no job. It is you who is looking for resources. It is you who is looking for the appropriate education that is going to lead you to that places. I am not worried that the number of university applicants to our university and other private universities are few. That does not degrade the value of the education that we are giving in these institutions. It only means that we have been smiling in the dark, and therefore there is an opportunity for us to come out and sell more, like we are currently. Any person who has graduated from ILU and many other universities of private nature, they have a reason to recommend any other person to get there. But let us now get on concentration. The wearer of the shoe is the one who understands what what it feels. And that is why now the student is in control. They know what appropriate education they need, where they need to go there, and anybody who is misappropriating, who is misrepresenting, who is bringing out the intake to be skewed, that person should be dealt with without any fear, any favor, up to the third generation, that they know that there is something wrong in dealing with public issues in the wrong manner, or to bring them to your direction. We must think about that, and that is what is going to help our nation. If we live in fear, if we live that we do not want to try the change, if we do not want to make the hard decisions today, we will remain just in the same place. So, Brian and team, let's just focus on what is good. Let us proceed on automation. Let us follow the procedure so that anybody who is doing something, I mean, there is no way that one region should be getting 50,000 students or 10,000 students and another one is getting 0. It means there is something that is being done behind the scenes. So those are the things that we need to handle, but away from the
but so, this, looking at what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation, these are fears that Brian is holding. You see, when we have officials who are entrusted even to make sure that Kenyans are having quality and safety food on their table, we still have unscrupulous individuals who maybe will game the system and feed Kenyans and feed Kenyans on bogus rice. And you see, it was scam in the making. It will make you also just shudder in terms of some of the headlines we're waking up to. Look, Kindiki cartels hijack supply of passports. And we had issues of the printing of a passport was the main concern. Now it is cartels who have hijacked the supply of it. For almost a month, people could not really get passports because of the cartels. Look at the Business Daily. Story of cheap cargo. PS letter and a fresh 1.7 billion shillings fuel scandal in the looming. PS allows farms to inflate cargo by 17%. Consumers to shoulder extra cost. We have this 85,500 metric tons of diesel cargo imported by Oryx Energies. I mean, there's a cause to worry. We need to clean up our system. So even when we talk about the university funding and the bugs and fears that the bugbears and fears that he's raising, it needs to be given a concern.
When you want to build a strong house, then anybody in the construction industry, including a village, people that Brian has issues with, will tell you that you need a very good and strong foundation. This country, we must investigate what are its foundations, what are its pillars, what are its strengths. Because people like what Brian is saying, things that Brian is saying here are not new things in this country. Because number one, we fear, every time there's change, we fear because we would rather the old system. And we don't want change. We said we wanted Huduma number to have every identification in one place. We have not gotten there. This government has come, says we go digital. We are still talking. The point that I want to make is that in terms of our basic foundations, we live a lie. We are running away from ourselves. We are tribal. And then we come and say, no, this thing will increase tribalism. The day we will accept that we are sick, that we are sinners, that we are corrupt,
we have already accepted.
That's the day we'll begin to ask, what do we do to make ourselves less of that? Now, back to what we are dealing with here. The fears we are having, the issues you are talking about, rice. The other day it was cooking edible oil. Generally, the issues that you are talking about are what you might say are endemic patron clientele manifestations in our politics. That whoever pays the piper also calls the tune. If, even as we sit here, fundamentally we do not agree on what constitutes an electoral body or constitutes a fair election, it simply means that from the word go, we will always have controversy around the products of an electoral system. So today we have a government whatever your persuasion about it, this government is built on certain basis. Now, it has certain programs. For example, what we are struggling with here, which is very consistent with what this government has done, is to remove subsidies from education. That's why they are opening it up and saying, we want to know what the actual cost is. They did that on fuel. They have done that on a number of things. Now, you may not like it. They may have a rationale around it. For me, what we need to see is the persuasion they have and the numbers they have. Otherwise, the fomenting of the other side of view should be strong enough as to determine what kind of choices people want to make come election time. So as long as we are where we are
Thank you.
facing
Thank you.
we have to face, because this is what our
It is systemic. All right.
has produced.
I will not let, unless Kiro, you wanted to say something. Yeah, I want to let also this fly. It has been headlining this week. Just to tell us more, if my director may just pick it up, the issue of the state bagging on your phones and emails as well, in light of trying to clamp down on terrorism, saying telephone calls and emails of Kenyans suspected to be dealing in money laundering and terrorism financing will be tapped if lawmakers approve changes to a bill seeking to escalate the fight against terrorism and dirty money deals in the security. The Parliamentary Committee on the Finance proposed the change. Let me take that again. It says the Parliamentary Committee on Finance proposed the changes to the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating of Terrorism Finance Laws Bill 2023 yesterday, seeking to legalize the bagging of suspects. Private communication. I think we've been here before with the security bill. And in a system again where people have trepidations and measures of fears that they cannot fully trust individuals also to bag my email, to bag my phone, to bag my conversations, you know, just my data and my privacy being encroached as well. What do you make of this particular
I'm happy to
amendment?
To let my
Are you happy with this?
I'm waiting to hear what say.
No, well, but I thought we were back to the issue of.
No, I just say let this not fly before
Yes.
we go back to the issue of what?
The issue of sugar, the issue of rice, the issue of edible oil, the issue of fuel.
No, I just gave a ballpark sort of conversation around it, because if we tease all that out, we won't have the time to discuss all this.
But the challenge is what is the intention of the regime?
Which one? Sorry.
What is the intention of the regime? Because this regime seems to be selling fear. And when we have a philosophy class from somebody like Martin Olo, who says all these things, does not agree with them, but does not say it as it is, I'm worried as a Kenyan. Because at the end of the day, I'm not worried even about the corruption. I'm worried about most of these things getting to people's mouths, and yet some of them are fake, some of them are poisonous. Remember the poisonous sugar. So my worry is that the regime seems to be spending time trying to create fear among the people. Yes, terrorism is here, and we have suffered this for the longest time possible. But that does not allow somebody to get into your private space, whether I'm sending email to him, and
if you're a suspect.
If I'm a suspect, then you can
determine the suspect.
Yeah,
that's the question.
So
us to interrogate.
We are allowing security forces to spend a lot of time creating fear among the people. You see, even about taxes, the way they were saying is that they will be tax. They are saying they are tax evaders and taxpayers, and yet when you realize the whole thing is that they want to say the previous regime was full of tax evaders. The current regime, which comprises some of the guys in the tax collection, are people who are tax evaders in the previous regime, are now being seen to be the people to preside over the tax collection. I'm not talking about the new taxman, whom I have a lot of respect for, but other people within the same KRA are people that we know they had cases in court about tax evasion. So it worries me. This regime does not want to allow Kenyans to have that free space. This law that they were trying to pass in Parliament, it will pass because this Parliament is at the peck of
We'll go to court.
So
You know,
of the executive.
I just want Honorable Kirwa to worry because these things we've seen them before, and of course, Parliament, the government has numbers, but we will go to court because those rights that are enshrined in the Constitution are very clear. I want to go back to what Martin was trying to say. You know, in this country, and I want to say it very clearly, that we have a shortage of people with values. And that is the reason why any system that we create has to be fair. And that's why, for instance, when William Ruto came into power and the DP Gachagua, the first thing they said, they told people, get on normal calls. Don't do WhatsApp calls again. Don't do Signal. Because the issue of spying on people through telephone is long gone. Now again, what are they doing? The same thing that they were fighting when they felt that they were not in government, even though they were in government, is the same thing that they are proposing to do. This was done during the amendment of the security bills. You remember?
Yes.
And we went to court. And we will still go to court. Dr. Green, the reason why we provided explicitly in the Constitution that money for devolution has to be at least 15% is because we know the machinations that happens. We are saying the baseline has to be 15%. Imagine if we provided in the Constitution that somebody to determine whatever goes to the county. We would be in trouble. It is the same theory that we are saying even in terms of funding for university students, we need to have a baseline. And they say each and every individual who has a C+ and above gets at least 70%. Create your criteria after that. Create your committee after that. Determine the chief and the assistant chief who will give a favor, 1 or 2, and determine who qualifies. That is the reason why we have to create a baseline. Because we are not genuine people in this country. We lack values. We lack consistency. We lack impartiality. We are very tribal, Martin.
I agree.
Yeah. So let's not sit here and discuss intellectual issues.
So let me say this, thanking my team members for what you have said. Matters cyber security are very, very serious in this country. And what we also need to look at is what has, away from just checking on us, what has gone ahead in terms of affecting our individuals. Poor people in the streets, poor people in the villages are losing money through some cyber activities. In one way, unapata pesa yako kwa account on M-Pesa on something, gone. You find that you have invested in a very big way and you lose. You find big investments that affect national security, and matters of money laundering are a serious issue. So we need to always, and you know, I always have another way of looking at things, because sometimes we also need to be very considerate. Listening to the work that one gentleman, Dr. Mark Tunga, and the team that is working, a task force on cybersecurity in this country, what they are doing, I cannot wait to hear the details and what is leading to some of the issues that they would want to recommend. If for sure that, you know, protection can be protection, and if you have nothing to fear, you have nothing to worry about. But imagine one dunderhead working on a mission that can blow up a city hotel or a mall or anything. Why would you not want to check on that person if there is anything like that that can affect all of us. These are the things that we need. We can talk about constitutional rights and everything else, but there reaches a point in our country that we must deal with real issues, because we are human beings. And just like Brian says, we lack integrity, we lack leadership skills, we lack fear of God, we lack being each other's keeper. And those are the things that I would want to hear. Kenyans are seated here today wondering, are these the leaders that are going to help us to get to where we are going to go? The leaders that we are seeing and comparing with a country like Rwanda, where the ministers ride on vehicles that they bought themselves, compared to what we have in Kenya, where a minister has got 7 assistants and they have 10 vehicles going together with them, 7 to 10 vehicles, high vehicles. In fact, the best was demonstrated at in Eldoret during the conference, Council of Governors conference. Leaders are just asking, do these people understand that the cost of living has gone so high? Are these the people that we are going to expect them to talk about manufacturing in this country, so that manufacturing is based on our own internal, just like the extension of bricks that has been done out there? How many employment opportunities are we creating that is going to change our country? Kenyans are asking this every now and then. And the more we try to evade this, the more we try to lose it and what Kenyans want to hear.
All right.
Kenyans want support from their leaders, they can't see it. And I can't agree anymore with what team members are saying. Having a baseline, that I think is the beginning of everything else, followed by what we intend to do, and then outright automation. We are headed to that point where our country is going to work on this. But leaders, let us be responsible. What we say on our face should be followed by our action. Seated here, how many people are we trying to mentor to show them what they can be able to do to put food on their table? And it is personal responsibility. It is something that can be able to change our country in the best way possible.
But isn't the government also speaking from both sides of the mouth? Because we have on the other side saying that, you know, the threshold that has to be declared with the banks, that has to be lifted from 1 million to 2 million. And we've had the banks really coming also to countermand that, saying, no, I think also giving that particular leeway is still promoting issues to do with money laundering and terrorism acts, or what they're trying to do with this particular bill. So I tend to wonder if on this other side you're trying to clamp on it, and this other side you're trying also, you're opening the door, and this other side you're trying to clamp on it. It doesn't make any lick of sense to me.
And that's why, the Bal, when you want to understand this government, you need to understand it from its broad thinking. This government is not, did not promise you democracy, never. This government came and told you about hustlers, but they also told you that when they do things, they actually do the very opposite. So this government intends to snoop on people. That one, we must be very clear.
But snooping is a preserve by NIS.
No, but it's government.
It's still government, yes.
It's government.
The point is, it requires information, and it will do. And by the way, in order to subdue, ask the mercenaries in Russia. The moment they did a mutiny and retreated, they were walking dead. Now, that is how Kremlin has just finished them. Now, you must borrow from the books. When you look at the books of strong governments, when you look at the books of authoritarian governments, they speak, they communicate to the poor, at the same time to the rich. They promise the rich, at the same time promise the poor. They promise everybody everything. And that's a good text, because you send confusion. Send people in this direction, send them on the other direction. Say you are having a meeting with Baba, harass or Paranya. So you must make sure that there is no peace on the other side, but your agenda is moving as much as you can. So there is a context here we need to understand. Once we've understood it, we will see more and more of this. First of all, this issue of no more than 1 million shillings declaration, or rather every time you do more than that, is not just a Kenyan phenomenon, it's an international phenomenon. When you go to the US, it's a requirement everywhere, and it's all about declaration. All you need to say is that you're doing this, and what are you doing? Just say it. Banks are required to report on any transaction above that on a daily basis. Not so that they say you are doing something. No, just report. Compliance. Honorable Kirwa today has moved more than 10 million shillings in his account. Just report to FRC, Financial Reporting Center. What they do with that information is their problem or their business. But generally what we are saying is that there are lots of requirements that we are supposed to meet, some of which are international, including that financial one. And even if we say we want to move it from 1 million to another, it will not going to be that easy, because it is now an entrenched international requirement. On issues of money laundering, on issues of counter-terrorism and so on, is it on issues of corruption? Maybe, maybe not. Is it on issues of illicit drug? Maybe. So there are many reasons why a government would want to see what is happening in terms of huge amounts of money, but this particular one has also its other interests other than
it will carry a lot of interest with it as well.
Well, it encourages me. I think I will attend one of his classes, because you can abuse somebody without saying so. He's a good ambassador.
He's a good ambassador.
Because ambassadors are people who are supposed to abuse you for half an hour, and you leave each other smiling by telling you, without telling you the way it is. He has told us the foundation of the formation of this government, and the philosophy is just to throw a lot of confusion, and everybody will be fighting the other. Because I remember the other day the deputy president was saying, we denied Raila everything, but we gave him money. That is a very big statement from the office of the deputy president, he himself saying it. Now, on this particular issue, it worries me that somebody of his level has accepted to allow the standards to fall. Because we must all the time resist, even if we know we may not be able to do much, but we resist so that we declare that this space is not available for anybody to allow standards to fall. We expect of the government a lot of integrity, and that's why I would want to support the Minister for Internal Security when he says Nyayo House is a crime scene. It's a crime scene in the sense that Kenyans, to the extent of 58,000, are waiting for their passports to be processed. And yet, they have not gotten those passports for the last 3 years. There are many students, like the ones who are now suffering, they might have applied immediately they reach the age of 18, and for the last 1 year they have not gotten the IDs. It's because of a corrupt system. What we do expect is that perhaps the Honorable Kindiki may not be successful, in the sense that this government seems to be operating in pigeonholes. Each person is operating without the benefit of the other. And this is what we have been insisting on this show, that there is need for the administration of the day to build some kind of teamwork. The last time I knew is that even within the system of government, there are sector specific issues. Like sector on food security, we used to have subcommittee led by one of the ministers. Areas of infrastructure, areas of service, so that some of the issues are distilled at that level, and whatever gets to the cabinet now becomes government policy, having been thoroughly considered at a lower level. Otherwise, what you see about this administration is that people are operating in compartments, and people seem to be loading the president with a lot of daily challenges which are routine.
Thank you.
The president should be dealing with the overall policy direction, but not dealing with routine matters of each and every ministry.
Right. Debal, yes. Just on this Kindiki issue.
Yes.
It is only in Kenya where a minister
in charge of immigration
goes to a committee of parliament and tell them that cartels have hijacked supply of passports. Minister for Immigration. saying that cartels have hijacked passports. This is the Minister for Immigration, the Minister of Passports. It is only in Kenya where the minister goes and tells parliamentarians that in 1 month's time, I will remove roadblocks.
To give time for order.
Why do we need 1 month to remove
roadblocks?
Chuma kwa barabara. Why do we need a whole 1 month to do this? Where has Kindiki been for the past 1 year? Now is when he's waking up and saying, cartels have taken over my job. The immigration. I have just realized, parliamentarians, that there is a problem. It is only in Kenya.
Okay,
it is only in Kenya, my brother, that this happens.
And by the way, Brian, he's voted as the best performing.
And then you want to tell us that Ababu has a problem because people wore fake Adidas and not original Nike. And that is a problem. You know, I don't know.
Okay, the law is reminding you he's voted the best performing minister.
So let me explain why. Let me explain.
By the way, my cousin got an SMS like a month ago that the passport is ready. I went there to try and see what is happening. Believe you me, that is what I would call organized confusion.
Yes.
Passport is ready. Forget about the one who was applied and has taken 6 months before your passport is ready. An SMS has been sent to your phone. Come and pick the passport. Picking the passport is a huge problem.
It's a procedure.
Just picking the passport, Dr. Kalua. Picking the passport.
True. So let me say this, Brian and team. It is one thing I have to admit that I have a lot of respect for Professor Kindiki. He is a top head. He has consistently done very good things. The fact that he admits that there are cartels in his ministry is a very good thing, because these cartels have existed for many years and nobody has been able to call them out. This is the beginning. That is why also
Kalula,
you find, let me say this.
You are, I see no evil.
Let me say this. When you hear the government has got very powerful systems, including the national intelligence. When you hear even the government saying that we want to check on your network, your communication, it is because of one thing that people, I'm just imagining, that there are many people, when information is online and you have been implicated on something on phone, you will hide under the constitution to say that you have the rights of not being snooped into, and therefore it becomes a matter in court that how did you get the information? It is against human rights in what you are dealing with. I believe the first thing of sorting out any challenge in our country is to admit that there is a problem, and then get to the why. Is it that people are just hiding in the law courts and they are not able to get what is needed, including the evidence that is so much required? Is it we should just give these people the opportunity to work, to do what is expected to be good? An admission to say that there is a problem and that I have not been able to deal with it is not anything wrong. But I also agree with my colleague Brian. It should not take 1 month for whatever reason to remove roadblocks from the road. After all, the president talked about it in the port, KPN. And things were raised in the open at the port, and these were said to be the impediments to growth, economic growth in the region. And therefore, the president actually said he should not find any roadblock in the next few days, and the promise was done there. It shouldn't take one month, seriously. He even said that vehicles to be allocated to be able to ply along the highways, and also the way bridges to be reduced from the 6 that they were to 2, so that people can can be able to communicate. Lives are being lost on vehicles that are transporting coffee and other important expensive things. So there, of course, I say there must be reasons why there is such a delay.
We need to find out the truth. What is the truth? Because previously we've been told the reason why the passports are not being generated is the fact that there was a fingerprinting machine was not working.
Yes.
It's that's
now we're told it's the supply.
So it is actually the suppliers again. There is a conflict of reasons that are actually bringing,
and that is what needs to be
dealt with. Can we have an effective
now.
communication? What is really happening? Where am I not really having my passport? I'm supposed to be traveling for a function or a business trip. I cannot do that. It's affecting me because of a fingerprint machine that is not working.
Let's discuss collection, the one that is ready. Forget about fingerprint.
The collection that is ready that we can't even pick it in the first place.
There are things we are not saying here, and there are things we are even not scratching, but there are symptoms we are dealing with. You are saying that passports, which is a security document, is being dominated by cartels.
Yeah.
You have not heard the real story behind the new number plates. The new number plates, in the format of the previous regime, were being done with security features. And the new number plates were being done with high national security endorsement. This government, the first thing that it did was to privatize the new those vehicle number plates. Privatize security-related information on number plates. And then you are saying that we also don't know what we are doing with our national IDs. And we are saying we're just opening our borders. And we are saying that anything goes. So, what we are preparing ourselves for is a script that has yet to be read.
The privatization, I think, was done by the previous government. These guys just found it.
No, I know what I'm talking about.
I agree. All I'm saying is those things that must be dealt with continue.
I know what I'm talking about.
There is a problem at NTSA, for sure. Even the president said it. And we need to sort it out. It is a matter of investigation. DCI are there. There are many people, officers of the government who are seconded in the institution, so they are investigating themselves. They may not be able to deliver what is expected. So these are things that must be, but this is the time to fix things.
So what really works in this country?
He's saying that privatization of security apparatus started at,
we need to wind up. We are sorting the sugar sector, we are sorting the coffee sector, we are sorting the tea sector, we are sorting the passport issue, we are sorting the political scenario in the day. We are a country of sorting people.
That is why the Green Thinking Action Party is here to fix things. Gharama ya maisha inazidi.
We are sorting the cost of living. 30 seconds, we are winding up. Let's begin with you, Brian. 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
The issue is not we are sorting. We will be sorting.
We will be sorting.
We will be sorting. And that is a problem with this government. I think we need prayers.
Always.
We leave it at that.
Always.
Let's hear from Kipruto Rapkiro.
Well,
30 seconds.
Let me say something. I think the El Nino that we're talking about, we want to see more state of preparedness on the part of the government, because as we said earlier, there is good harvest in Kenya, generally, this season. Not because of fertilizer alone, but because of the rains that God provided us. But I don't know the state of preparedness in terms of infrastructure and also in terms of food security. Because food harvest, good harvest, is a product of what you get to the store in a good condition. But if the rains come in October and find a lot of maize without the requisite logistical opportunities by National Cereals and Produce Board, we might lose 30% of what we are supposed to harvest.
Thank you, Kipruto.
The bipartisan talks that both Brian and Honorable Kirwa love are about to slap on us changes on the constitution or proposals that we will not love. The self-interest are playing around. When you talk about the Kamwene, self-interest, it's one man, one vote. So we are just about to hype our decibels in politics. The problem is, will Kenyans emerge the better or worse?
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you. Dr. Kulwa, your 30 seconds.
When we talk about passports that are not being delivered, when we talk about life being unmanageable, we are talking about people. We are talking about people are losing lives. We are talking about things that must be fixed. Let every Kenyan, whom God has given a responsibility to work for common good. Let's forget this individualistic approach to things, because that is not what is going to help our nation. Everyone has been put in a place where there should be of value to the other. Let's do whatever it costs.
Thank you.
And let everyone take responsibility.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, as always, a treat every Friday where we slice and dice issues to do with the matters of leadership here on Uongozi Today. And we eagerly to